I kept telling my young daughter to work hard, be something in life, and just put your head down and get to studying. She didn't listen to me. She's rebellious, and now I found out that my underage daughter is dating a man who's 29 years old, and he goes by the name of Ethan. Potential trigger warning. I must begin this post like that just to caution those who have dealt with abusive partners. Please proceed with the story only if you think you can handle such cases. Thank you. Let's begin. This particular case is upsetting me to write because it's about my daughter, and while I'm upset at her for foolishness as her father, I'm also desperately worried about her. I promise I will not get into explicit details, but I'll say this might stir up some strong feelings in you, whether it's anger or sadness. Okay, let us begin with a statement I've been gnawing at for the longest time. How far should you let your children enjoy their freedom? Or let me rephrase it, what is the limit? Hey, this is Eric, 39, male, and my teenage daughter has returned to me after an outing with a couple of her friends. As it's claimed by her, bruised and with a few bandages wrapped around her limbs. The sight of her scared the hell out of me. I know for certain it's not what she claimed it to be. How has it reached this situation? I've only had an inclination, and today I'm going to share with you. It's been a few days since, and I did a lot of thinking before coming here. It was necessary because her boyfriend had returned. Pardon me if I'm not coherent enough, it's about my daughter. And I'm scared as any other parent would be about their teenage daughter in this situation. I live in a small apartment with my daughter, Sofia. It's a small enough apartment, but we manage so far. I have no romantic partners except for this one lady that I've been seeing from some time, though it certainly is not serious. Throughout these years and after my wife's death, I've raised Sofia on my own, with little help from my family or the outside world. It was certainly not easy, but it worked out for a very long time. Sofia was a promising child, but as she grew older, her ways of seeing the world changed. Certainly, like anyone else, I accepted this as an inherent part of growing up. It was certainly that, but in the wrong direction. Sofia started to love money. I'm unsure how that started. I've worked as a software engineer for nearly 15 years now, so although not much money's come pretty easy in my life, even then, I must admit that there were a few demands from my daughter that I could really not fulfill. Maybe it's because of that, I'm not sure. Anyway, Sofia started to love money, and that meant she wanted one thing after another. For the most part, I was able to fulfill the wishes, but not for all of them. It was after she got caught stealing, well, from her homeroom teacher's purse, that I realized the situation has gotten worse. She was only 8 at the time, but that way that she defended herself made her cautious about a lot of things. Some of my family members warned me about it, but mostly dismissed it. They all agreed on one thing, though. Sofia will learn to behave over time, but she did not. Instead, she got worse. Although her love for money was already there, she got a little more rebellious. It's often going to get her in trouble, and mostly, though, it got her in contact with random people that none would have seen coming. I would tell her to be cautious around her new friends, and a new argument would blow up between us. I would try to talk to her, and she would refuse to listen, and I would ground her, and she would distance herself from me. These little rebellions only helped her so much, but they did give hints that I had to be very careful about her. Unfortunately, work kept me busy, and she started lying a lot. For months and years, I could not differentiate between her lies and her truth. Yes, that's embarrassing, but it is what it is. The first time I realized things might be going in the wrong direction for my daughter was when I found her hanging with a much older dude. She said it's her boyfriend, but he clearly looked like he was at least 25. It was wrong in itself, and Sofia was only 16 at that time, and that clearly meant jail time for the dude, but he escaped. I threatened to beat him to a pulp, and he got scared and left. You should have seen the fit Sofia threw after it. It almost reminded me of my late wife. Yes, there's a reason for that. Catherine, my wife, had a history of the same. She had run away with a much older dude when she was 15, and the police could not find her for 2 weeks. It was only after somebody sent the police an anonymous tip that they had seen a young girl and an older man around some parts of the city that they found her drugged in a shady-looking building. She was brought back and everyone expected she would learn her lesson. She did not. To be very honest, maybe that is the reason I did not feel much surprised when Sofia started moving the same way. She had heard stories about her mom, and it clearly got into her head. Catherine's death was a tragic one, and I clearly did not want the same for my daughter, so I tried talking to her. In frustration, I even resorted to a more strict way of making her understand why it was all so wrong. She never did understand, though. What she learned was to hide it better. She no longer met with her boyfriends around our home. She never discussed such things with me, and if not for the increasing number of souvenirs and expensive gifts in her bedroom, I would not have any suspicions about her at all. In easier words, she could have easily been a successful actress, and no one would bat an eyelash, but things were okay even then. But then her grades started dropping, and by the time she reached her high school, I will sound very harsh when I say this, she was easily considered the dumbest in her class. She did not have basic knowledge, her grammar was lacking, and so was her general knowledge. Don't ask me about her math, it was going very badly. Well, I was worried about her, but she had absolutely no interest in taking it seriously at all. She had no other interests, but it did not matter to her. For her, she had her entire life planned out for her. Her planning, well, you already know. Keep rich people around you, follow their words, say yes to their yes and no to their no. Because of this, she had difficulty getting into college as well. So we both agreed on a gap year. She promised she would invest a year learning something nice, and I did not shame her for anything at all, because I was glad she was at least thinking of something. Of course, it was short-lived. She asked for money for some fancy music class, and I provided her with everything I could. I even bought her an expensive piano. She seemed interested for a while, but within a couple months, I knew I just wasted thousands of dollars for absolutely nothing. I learned pieces faster than she ever thought of learning them, and then, about 8 or 9 months ago, she changed. She stayed out of home longer than was expected of her. I knew she had made friends, but I expected them to be from her music class. You know, people of her age, but unfortunately, it was not until the moment I was writing this post that I found out who it actually was. Sofia had promised she was not dating anyone, and I was relieved. Last week, she came to my room and asked me if she could go out with a couple of her friends. I asked her all the necessary questions, and she answered them cautiously as if she had prepared her answers in advance. But I was still not suspicious. She had her iPhone with her all the time, and I had all the important numbers. I let her go. She had said that she would be back on Thursday, but she returned on Tuesday morning bruised and bandages around her limbs. Scared, I asked her several questions and wondered if we should go to the hospital. She just said that she was fine and that was all because of an accident. She even said that I could call her friend Vanessa if I did not believe her. She sounded so confident that I believed her, and I think that was my first mistake. She refused to go to her music classes and just remained in her bedroom throughout the day. She sometimes helped me with cooking, but that was all. We had little talks, and to be very honest, this was the closest that she had been with me in a long while. For some days, I believed I was getting her back, but of course, it was only during that time that her quote boyfriend returned. Now, this is interesting. He looked like any of her other boyfriends, aka much older than her. I placed his age somewhere around 27 or 28. He has muscles and everything and introduced himself as Ethan. Although he seemed very well-mannered and polite, he immediately asked to talk to Sofia. I did not want him near my daughter, but Sofia ran up to him. They talked and I observed their interaction, and I did not know if I could trust Ethan, but he had managed to bring a smile to my daughter's face. He promised to meet her again and left, and he left her a gift. When he left, Sofia came to me and told me about him. She said that he's 21 but looks older because he works so hard. Then, in a fragile voice, she told me that she wanted to shift in with her boyfriend. Like any other father, I said hell no. But it made her upset, and she's since locked herself in her bedroom and threatened to leave my home without telling me. So here I am. What am I supposed to do? What can I do? Talking to her has never worked. What chances are that it will now? Top comments from the original post. Comment number 1. Let me be honest with you, your daughter has worried the heck out of me. I don't have children and I'm only engaged to a man, but I'm genuinely thinking if I should have a child. This all sounds like a headache. Besides the moral part, raising children is no joke, especially because you have to teach them so much, but you'll never know what else that they'll be getting into. An 18-year-old girl who's already given up on working hard and wants rich boyfriends? Ugh, needs a reality check. And I'm sorry if I sound harsh here. Maybe do a background check on the boyfriend before letting her go. Comment number 2. Look, I don't know why I think this way, but Ethan is a red flag. I don't know why, but he is. I mean, the fact that he came to talk to your daughter only a couple days after your daughter came home bruised, what are the chances that she never went out with her friends and instead was with Ethan, her boyfriend? There's something fishy going on, and I want you to move. Seriously, because, well, she's going to get hurt. And think back to the day your daughter was acting different around him. Comment number 3. I can't believe you're letting your daughter get away with this. You need to be strict with her. Way, way more strict than you are, and I don't know how you can live with yourself knowing that your daughter is out there dating a man twice her age. She's a minor, and he's most likely a predator. You're a terrible parent, and you're lucky that your daughter has not gotten herself into even more trouble. Wake the duck up before it's too late. Update number 1. So she did it. I had been at my job, and when I came back, Sofia was no more at my house. She had gracefully left a note, though, and had promised that she would be back in a few days and that I should not worry about her. I was worried as hell. So I immediately contacted some of my family members to talk to them about this. Unfortunately, for the most part, instead of being helpful, they were only accusing. They raised their fingers at me and told me that I had gone wrong somewhere. They brought Catherine into the conversation and claimed that they were not really surprised by Sofia's habits. It came with the blood, they said. What made me angry. They were not being helpful at all, and I bid them a quick farewell and then took leave for the next day. I contacted with a few friends of Sofia, and so I asked them about her and her boyfriend Ethan. Out of all of them, only Vanessa knew a little about it. She said Ethan was 29 and basically a trust fund baby. Sofia and he met at a party and that she snuck into instead of going to her music class. They immediately picked up and started to date, and it happened months ago. Vanessa did not know anything other than that, and the only meaningful thing she said was that she was pretty sure Ethan was abusive. She admitted she was a little jealous of Sofia because Ethan gave her everything she asked for. But still, she was glad that she did not have a boyfriend like him. Which, by the way, somewhat is confusing, makes sense to me. I knew I needed to look further into Ethan's background because a trust fund baby, all biases aside, is never good news. And abusive? Someone asked me if Sofia looks scared or different. Now that I think about it, maybe. I mean, I can't be sure to say yes. It's just true that he seemed to be overpowering her, both mentally and physically. She even seemed a little hesitant to touch him. It was then Ethan who pulled her in for a hug, and may I add, a little forcefully. I called her several times, and she picked up. I asked her to return at once, and she threw a fit. I threatened to report to the police if she did not, and it seemed to do something to her. She promised to return the next day, and the next day that she did, she had once again had fresh bruises on her body. She tried to hide them behind baggy clothing that seems to be in fashion these days, but I caught it. She looked like she had not had good sleep in ages, and there were bags under her eyes. Her skin looked dull, and I knew something was going horribly wrong. I tried talking to her, and I promise you I did try so much, but she had little to answer. Each time she had something else to explain her bruises, and eventually she got sick of explaining it and just stopped trying to keep up with the lies. She would just start lying randomly. One time she said she slipped on the bathroom floor. One time fell down the stairs. Another time she did not look before crossing the road. It was maddening. I was losing patience, and I almost did lose my patience, but I kept my anger inside. I knew I had to tread carefully. If what I believed to be true, then it was a very sensitive case. One night, a few weeks after Sofia returned from Ethan's house, she broke down. She admitted, and I'm not sure how it came to be, that Ethan had hurt her. I asked her, what had he done? She answered he'd physically hurt her, and I was angry, and you could see it on my face. She knew it, too. I told her that I'd kill that son of a gun. and would go to jail if I had to. Something changed in her almost immediately, and she starts sobbing and asked me not to do anything. She looked so desperate and scared that I did not know what to make of it. I tried to look calm and told her that though I would not kill him, I will call the police. That man is not getting away with it. Instead of agreeing, she just kept repeating, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." When I asked her and why I should not, he's hurt my daughter, he's going to pay for it. She just answered that if I told the police, Ethan would do something worse. I don't know what she meant by that. I mean, what should I do? I've decided not to let Sofia go to Ethan's again, but I still don't understand what is happening. Also, to that one commenter, I am not a terrible parent. I agree I'm having difficulty dealing with the situation, but I swear I'm not terrible. I'm here to ask for help because I know if I do not take any action right now, it's going to result in something much worse. Update number 2. I know it's been a few weeks, but I have good reason for my long absence. This may sound weird and I may be in the wrong, but honestly at this point, who the duck cares? I will kill Ethan. I don't care for anyone or anything at this point because that man has done something that no father will leave him alive for. The moment I see him, I swear, he better hope the police find him first because I'm coming for him. Some of you did hint, but what I found is still worse than anything. I mean, I've expected some bad stuff, but this? Sure. After Sofia said that Ethan could do something worse, I had slight inclinations that some stupid little moment had led to stupid decisions, but I was still not sure what they could be. I had an idea, but nothing else, but then Ethan returned. He looked terrible this time. His face was unshaven, and he looked savage, almost like he was rabid. I decided not to open the door for him. I knew he meant trouble. He said he wanted to talk to Sofia, and I said that she's not at home, and even if she were, I would not allow her to meet him. Well, that made him mad. And like the typical rich baby, he starts acting up, right? So I tell him that if he did not leave my premises, I would call the police. He was angry and wanted to do mean things, but it was clear he did not want trouble with police. Before leaving, he growled at Sofia that if she did not contact him by the end of the day, and I quote, "I promise it'll be very bad for you." Sofia looked very scared after hearing that, and she even tried to follow him. I stopped her, but Ethan seemed to have expected her to follow him because he stayed in front of my house in his car for a very long time. Sofia starts to sob, something that I must admit scared the hell out of me, but I did not allow her to follow him. It was obvious she was scared and worried about something. She looked for her phone and I hid it from her. I wanted to understand the gravity of the situation because she looked like a maniac. For a very long time, she only screamed and cried, and she even tried to lock herself in the bedroom. I really could not understand anything. I promise I was scared. I nearly called my mom to help me with this thing. Fortunately, she calmed down after some hours, and I gave her water and asked her what was going on. I must have looked just as scared because she just started crying again, although softer this time, and said that I was going to ruin her life. I looked at her in confusion because her hair was all messed up and her face was red and wet. I'm giving you an idea of what she looked like, right? So please try to understand how scared I was. Then she said that she had something to show me. She asked for her phone, unlocked it, and gave it to me. It was a chat that she shared with Ethan. I noticed that the internet was off and she clearly did not want him to know that she was online. Besides the kind of messages lovers share, there were photos. Lots and lots of photos. Some of them were shared by Sofia herself, but hey, I skipped them. Within the next 10 minutes, I found out that Ethan had been blackmailing her with all the pictures that she shared, and he edited them. There were little clips, too, but I didn't open them. Somehow I knew what they were, and I threw the phone away and sat next to her. I honestly did not know what to say. This was the kind of mess that I'd only seen movie characters going through. She did say that she was sorry, and she did not know that it would end up like this. He had promised her luxurious items every single time that he asked for pictures or videos. She had given them each time, until recently when she wanted to get out of the relationship, he blackmailed her that if she tried to do that, he would leak her photos. This is what he warned her about. Then she said that she was not the only person. Ethan had done this with a few other girls as well, and for a very long time I did not know what to do about this. I certainly was not going to share it with any other family members, not even with my parents, and they were the only nice people in my family, so I had to handle this on my own, and with the help of the police. I told Sofia this bit, and she started to cry again. She was clearly scared that this would mean Ethan would release everything. But I promised nothing like that would happen. I asked her to contact the other girls too. Ethan was foolish enough to send the threats through text messages, but it was good for me. That man was going to get it really bad. She contacted the other girls, and I contacted the police. We had some evidence already, and I guess the police only needed a little more and a confession. But the moment I reached Ethan's house, the police next to me, I knocked a couple teeth out of his ugly mouth. Hang on tight, everyone. Now you'll know what happens to people like Ethan. Update number 3. Ethan will have to register himself as an offender. You know what I'm talking about. Sofia was not the only victim. There were several girls younger and older. Essentially, that means there was a lot of evidence against Ethan. His rich family tried their best to help him out, but that did not work. His confidence adding to the severity of the crime resulted in an uproar of sorts. Many people wanted him dead, but most of all just wished for a proper sentence for him. Thankfully, that happened. For once, I was glad our justice system worked. In essence, he would have to serve a jail sentence of 23 years consecutively, and without parole. What he has committed is basically a federal crime, you know, how bad that can be. Sofia and 2 other girls are still teenagers, so he's been charged with exploitation and keeping videos. Due to the not safe for work environment, I'm not going to say much about it, so I'll keep a few words as a hint. You know what I'm basically saying. Essentially, Ethan will serve 23 years. Besides the exploitation of a minor, he's also heavily charged with blackmailing. You can be sure our system does not take lightly to that. Besides that, he's charged with battery and assault in a particular girl's case. She lied to her parents just as Sofia lied to me. Physically, her condition was worse than Sofia's, even though nothing in this situation is worth comparing. You should have seen his damn face, though. With a couple of broken teeth and his parents weeping by his side, they made up a ridiculous family picture. When the judge laid down the sentence of 23 years, they begged him to, quote, lessen it because our Ethan is such a young boy, this will ruin his life. Well, that made me mad. I mean, how could they do that? How could they want their son to be free after what he's done? How could any parent? I don't understand. The judge humored them. He asked what they thought would be an appropriate sentence in this case, and they answered 5 years. Yeah, you heard that right. The judge pointed at his 7 victims, including Sofia, and reminded them that all the girls were younger than Ethan, and he tried to ruin their life. So the sentence that the court has announced is the right decision. This is the final decision, and they could challenge it whenever they wanted. They promised that they would. Mostly to Ethan than to any of us, though. Well, that's about it for Ethan. Now let's talk for a second about Sofia. Well, she's doing good. Pretty much, sure, yeah, I know this wound will take a while to heal, but that day will come. I'm sure of it. She talks very little, but I believe that comes with the shame of it all. Perhaps she's just embarrassed about it, I don't know. I've done my best to make her feel that way, and I've not said a word to shame her or insult her. Though, it's true, I've shared a few words of advice with her, but you can expect a father to do that, especially after all that's happened, am I right? She's continued with her music class and has even learned a new piece. She has also told me she wants to work. It's a small convenience store, but she insists on starting from there, and I don't want to force her, so maybe I'll suggest better places after a while. At least this seems like the beginning of something better. I don't like to drink, but dear Lord, I'd love to share a beer with you right now. Top comments from the update. Comment number 1. He better not drop the soap. Just saying. I still feel like mothers do a better job raising kids alone than men do. I don't know, that's just my thought. Glad that you saved her before it got any worse or even way worse. These cases are definitely very sensitive, and Ethan could have damaged your daughter really bad, though I'm pretty sure she's done his fair share of damaging already. These things scare the duck out of me because how are we supposed to know what's going on with our kid's head? Comment number 2. Social media sucks. In simpler words, I'm pretty sure she's met a lot of bad people in her life because of that, but most likely, I don't know, SNS is filled with rubbish and nonsense people with nonsense ideas. I'm not saying it's all bad, but it's not all good. They're teaching our kids the quote easy way. I don't know. I want it to be gone, you know? Well, I think he deserves worse than 23 years. Honestly, I agree with some of those comments. I think 23 years was not enough time. Somebody like Ethan, he turns out to be a complete creep. I mean, an absolute predator, and he's going after all these underage girls just because he has a bit of influence and money, and he can pull it off. But it's so wrong, and I just honestly believe he should be doing life in prison because you just can't trust somebody like him. Let me know your thoughts though. Do you think 23 years behind the slammer was enough time for him to repent on his sins, as the story said? I want to know your thoughts about that one, guys. Thank you for joining me on today's story. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories every single day. So if you want to be a part of these videos, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you tomorrow, and remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.